Welcome to the English Language Arts Visual Literacy module for grades 6 through 12. We hope this module will help provide you with research and practices to transform the learning environment for your students. The vision of the Department of Curriculum and Instruction is to transform the learning environment for all students. The mission of the Department of Curriculum and Instruction is to advance the practice of teaching and learning by providing direct and indirect student-centered support based on research and grounded in real-world experiences. We hope that today's session will deepen your knowledge of visual literacy in the ELA classroom as you support your students. The content of this module is aligned to the State of Georgia's Teacher Keys Effectiveness System Performance Standards 2 and 3, Instructional Planning and Instructional Strategies. Our agenda for this module is as follows. First, we will take a look at the learning targets and success criteria. Then, a brief explanation of why we need visual literacy before diving into an article that will help provide background knowledge. We will watch a video and review a response protocol. You will then have an opportunity to practice using the protocol before receiving some evidence-based practices to help implement visual literacy. The module will conclude with an opportunity for self-paced extended learning and a list of resources. During this module, you will learn about DCSD, Visual Literacy Response Protocol, and planning a task that incorporates visual literacy components. After completing the module, you should be able to plan tasks using the DCSD Visual Literacy Response Protocol. In preparation for viewing the module, collect the following items so that you can take notes and complete the activities provided. Paper, a pen or pencil, and visit the resource folder to download the following documents: the Picture Perfect Teaching to Visual Literacy article, the Visual Literacy Response Protocol, and the note-taking sheet. We've all heard the old adage, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Learning to read those pictures gives us advantages in both work and life. When 90% of the information sent to the brain is visual, it's so much of what you're looking at as you go about your day. 93% of all human communication is visual, like facial expressions and body language, making it imperative that we spend time understanding how to appropriately read images. Just as children are taught to read and understand words, we must also teach them to learn to read, understand, and critique images to become literate in visual language in order to communicate successfully in our increasingly image-saturated culture. Now, before we walk through the documents that guide ELA instruction in the DeKalb County School District, we would like you to take a few moments to complete a background reading and self-reflection. This will enable us to build on a common understanding during the module. At this time, please pause the module as you read Picture Perfect, Teaching to Visual Literacy, and use the note-taking sheet to reflect. As you reflect, consider these questions. What do you notice? What do you wonder? What opportunities or challenges do you anticipate with implementation? And what support might you need? Both documents are located in the resource folder. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the reading. When understanding expectations for ELA in DeKalb County, the DCSD 612 ELA Instructional Plan is the framework. The instructional plan is based on the three-part lesson plan as well as a gradual release of responsibility. This module specifically focuses on visual literacy, which supports direct and explicit reading comprehension instruction, and should be used during the work period portion instructional time. Similar to the K-5 ELA instructional guidance document, the 612 instructional plan expects visual literacy to be incorporated in order to analyze, discuss, and write about text. We encourage teachers to model the use of visual literacy strategies to support students scaffolding up to grade level. When we think about what it means to incorporate visual literacy, we have to consider the visual language being used. We have to consider decoding or encoding. Visual decoding refers to translating and understanding the meaning of visual imagery. On the other hand, visual encoding refers to the ability to express thoughts and ideas in a visual form. When planning for instruction, be mindful of your desired outcome when deciding whether students will read and understand images or if students will create their own images. Either way, an increased implementation of visual literacy will allow more students to have access to grade-appropriate learning. Before we get deeper into our understanding of visual literacy, let's take a moment and watch a video from the Georgia Department of Education. In this video, Kelly York, the ELA Professional Learning Specialist for Metro RESA, discusses how visual literacy connects to the Georgia Standards of Excellence. While watching the video clip, consider these three questions. What resonates with you? What challenges you? What supports do you need to better implement images in your daily lessons that help provide an entry point for all readers? The link to the video is in the resource folder. Be sure to jot down your thoughts on the note-taking sheet. If you are working with the grade level team, turn and talk to discuss your responses. And again, please save those responses as evidence that you have worked through this module. Now, pause the module and enjoy the video. After watching Kelly explain the relationship between visual literacy and the state standards, we hope that there are some new things that you heard or noticed. One of the first noticings we'd like to highlight is that Georgia Standards of Excellence prompts students to read text on multiple levels, but also expects students to analyze, evaluate, and compare multiple types of text. Kelly also explained that visual literacy is not just analyzing and evaluating images, but visual literacy falls under the lens of multimedia, meaning images like videos and songs and sculptures need to be analyzed and evaluated and compared like any other text. When the Georgia Standards of Excellence mention text, they are referring to anything that can be read, analyzed, and comprehended in order to pull information from. Kelly closes the video by explaining that artists, like authors, have a story to tell, and we as educators want to teach students to read those images with a multimedia lens. In relation to the 612 ELA instructional plan, visual images serve as an entry point to critical analysis for all levels of readers. It also serves as a scaffold into more rigorous reading and serves as an accessible way to access content for below grade level readers and EL students. In order to assist the DeKalb County teachers in effectively implementing visual literacy into their classrooms, the Visual Literacy Response Protocol was adapted from the New York Times Learning Network. Using a protocol for visual text gives students a way to analyze, discuss, and write about text in a manner that requires rigorous thinking and response. The three open-ended questions that guide the analysis are: what's going on in the picture? What do you see that makes you say that? And what more can you find? These questions are merely a starting point for comprehension and critical analysis. Now that you have been introduced to the protocol, let's practice. In a moment, you will be asked to pause this presentation so that you can examine, dissect, and write. You will need the same note-taking chart that you have been using for the duration of this module. After looking closely at the image on the screen, think about the three questions from the protocol. What is going on in this picture? What do you see that makes you say that? And what more can you find? If you are working with a grade level or team, be sure to discuss your responses. And again, be sure to save the note-taking chart as evidence that you have worked through this module. Now, pause the presentation and complete the activity. Now that you have had an opportunity to practice using the protocol, let's read the caption to see what's really going on. This image comes from a May 2020 article. The story details the scene at a Los Angeles nursing home on Mother's Day. Families got their first chance to see mom since the coronavirus lockdown began, as long as they stayed outside and she stayed inside. Now let's take a quick moment to reflect. Consider how you responded to the previous questions. Consider how reading the caption of the image impacted your initial perspective. Consider how using images like this one provides an entry point for students who may read below grade level. As we continue, remember that beyond real photographs and still shots, there are endless possibilities with visual literacy. Much of it depends on the extent to which you scaffold and plan for student learning. Think about your own lessons. How can they be enhanced or improved by the inclusion of images that support student learning? Which units or which topics could you teach differently with the addition of visuals? Political cartoons, for example, provide an engaging entry point for students who read below grade level. The use of the image allows struggling readers to gain an initial understanding of the topic related to the daily lesson based on their understanding of the image. Cartoons are effective in engaging readers on all levels. Infographics can be used to teach students about sources and bias in information. The Center for American Progress and Heritage.org provide different viewpoints on immigration reform. Consider how images like these can be used to transform student thinking and encourage social action. Literary infographics support the dissecting of novels, more so emphasizing symbols, motifs, and characterization. Again, it is still an infographic and still requires students to read words, numbers, and images to make sense of it all. Charts, graphs, and maps, like every other image mentioned, also provide entry points for students who read below grade level. The extent to which you plan for student learning determines which images are used to accomplish which goals. Using the evidence-based practices on this list as a basis for understanding will support a student's ability to better understand visual text. Step 1. Begin with examining the image holistically. What does the image represent, and what message does the image convey? Think about your initial reactions. Step 2. Consider the nature of the image, thinking about whether or not this is a professional portrait or a candid shot. Was it spontaneous? Was it deliberate? Step 3. Examine the perspective. Is it a close-up or a distant shot? Step 4. Analyze contrast and context. Like, is the visual positive or negative? Step 5. Examine poses and body language of human figures. Try to determine what emotion they are seeming to express. Step 6. Look for bias. Do you sense the photographers were trying to manipulate the people or the events depicted, casting them either in a favorable or negative light? And step 7. Consider the larger context. Then review the image for possible manipulation. And finally, consider the story that the image seems to tell. What is the thesis of this image? What visual details or symbols help tell the story? Again, using these steps along with the response protocol will support a student's ability to better understand visual text. At this point, we've walked through a couple of documents that should give you a clear expectation of what ELA instruction looks like in the DeKalb County School District. Spend a few moments revisiting the document and use the note-taking sheet to jot down responses to these questions. What do you notice? What do you wonder? What opportunities or challenges can you identify as you consider implementation? And lastly, what support might you need as you implement visual literacy in your classroom? Pause the presentation and jot on your note-taking sheet. If you are working with a grade level or team, be sure to discuss your responses. Also, continue to save your notes as evidence that you have worked through this module. Now that you have made it to the end of this module, we invite you to extend your learning experience by visiting visualliteracytoday.org. The website offers essays, articles, instructional videos, and TED Talks that all emphasize the importance of visual literacy. We believe that much of the information on the site will support effective lesson planning and implementation of visual literacy in the classroom. Here are some of the resources that can support your implementation of visual literacy. First, the Learning Network from the New York Times. The Visual Literacy Response Protocol was adapted from this network. Additional ideas for visual literacy implementation can be found in This is Disciplinary Literacy by Relia Cossett-Lint. Relia's second book in the series, Disciplinary Literacy in Action, co-written with Marcia McCracken Voigt, includes additional examples, highlighting multiple DeKalb County schools. Check with your instructional coach or teacher librarian to locate copies of these resources at your school. The Sundance Reader by Mark Connolly provides steps for analyzing visual images. And the Georgia Department of Education has a host of resources and supplemental videos to support visual literacy implementation. We thank you for your time and commitment to strengthening instruction for the students of the DeKalb County School District. On behalf of the Department of Curriculum and Instruction and the District English Language Arts team, thank you for participating in this module. Our ELA team is here to support you. Please reach out if you need us.